Hare Krishna all. So we'll start our today's class. Anyways, there are few people, but we have a group of people at Amitji's house, so we'll just start. And Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Very welcome to you. And I would like to introduce Pawan Goyal Prabhu. As I have got some information about him from someone. So Dr. Pawan Goyal Prabhu did his BTech from IIT Kanpur in 2003 in Department of Electrical Engineering and was one of the toppers in his batch. He was connected to Bhaktivedanta Club IIT Kanpur from first year itself and took part in all the club activities. He did his PhD in computational linguistics at University of Ulster under the supervision of Professor Lakshmidhar Behra and Professor T.M. McNity. Now he is the youngest associate professor in CSC department at IIT Kharagpur, working in the field of text mining, natural language processing, information retrieval, and Sanskrit computational linguistics. He is one of the best researchers of India and has received many prestigious awards such as Google India AI ML Research Awards 2020, INAE Young Engineer Awards 2020, Facebook and
I think
I don't understand Prabhu Ethics Research Award.
That's all right.
India 2019 basics. Besides all these achievements, he practices spirituality very seriously and is very humble and generous person. Sorry, Prabhu, I got this information from Tanmay Govind Prabhu. Thank you so much for attending and hosting this event, and we are very much grateful to you, and we hope the participants will have good knowledge about Bhagavad Gita today.
Thank you, Mataji, for this very kind introduction. Yeah. So, thank you very much for organizing these events. I hope all the participants are benefiting a lot from reading Bhagavad Gita. So,
can everyone turn on their cameras if possible? Hemang Prabhu, Amit Verma, Prabhu, because there is a group of people, so we can see.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, very, very nice to see all of you.
Okay, Hare Krishna Prabhu, I'm at my friend place. So we have almost nearly 20 people around here. So yeah, we'll be listening you from here.
Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah, Hare Krishna to all. So yeah, I think this is an opportunity for me to read from Prabhupada books. So that's what we will be doing. So, and this is an amazing introduction that Srila Prabhupada has written. And that is what you have been, I think, listening for the last few weeks.
Yes.
And we will continue from where
the
last session ended. So what I will do, I'll share my screen and start from there. Okay. Yeah, I hope you can all see my screen. So,
yes.
So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita Introduction. So last week, I think that is where we have ended this paragraph. The Lord descends to this mortal world to show his pastimes in Vrindavan. So I mean, all of us have actually heard, might have seen in television and other places, different pastimes of Lord Krishna in Vrindavan, right? And they are very, very enchanting to kids, young people, old people, whoever the person is. They are very, very enchanting. And that is where the paragraph says, that's why Lord Krishna actually ascends to this material world. There's no reason for him to come to this world, but he wants to attract all of us. These pastimes are all full of happiness, right? Like how Krishna is playing with his friends how he goes to the forest, how do they have lunch together, right? How do they kill demons? How do all the cowherd boys take complete shelter of Krishna? So there is some danger, but we know Krishna will save us. So they're all very enchanting and very, very nice pastimes that we would have heard or read from Krishna book also. Now, what this paragraph told us, that we need to only worship the Supreme Lord, Krishna, because our ultimate goal is to return back to his abode. There's no need to worship any demigod. And the example was given that how when in Vrindavan, they were trying to celebrate Indra Puja. That was their annual ritual, that every year they will worship Indra because to get rains. How Lord Krishna actually convinced his father that no, we don't need to worship Indra. That's their duty. We should instead worship Govardhan. So we wanted to establish there is no need to worship any other demigod, only worship Lord Krishna. Why do we worship Lord Krishna? Because that's our ultimate goal. The ultimate goal of our life is we want to return to his abode. And now what is his abode? Now, that is what we will see today. And it's very, very nicely described by Prabhupada in this introduction. What is Sri Krishna's abode? So I remember, like before I came in contact with Bhaktivedanta Club in IIT Kanpur, we also had read Bhagavad Gita. We also had heard about some pastimes of Lord Krishna, because we are from a family where we used to worship Lord Krishna, Lord Ram. But we had no idea that Lord Krishna has a home. Right? So we had no idea about there is something beyond the world that we are living in. Right? So we thought this is all in all. So the world that I'm seeing, I'm seeing my family, my society, my state, country, India, maybe the whole universe I can see. That's all is there. There's nothing beyond that, right? And even when it comes to God, if somebody asks where does God live, what is the address of God? There's no clear answer. Nobody gives an answer. So God is everywhere. That's the answer one will hear. God is everywhere. Bhagwan har jagah. So there's no address, particular address. But that is something that perception completely changes when we read Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So like all of us have address, but why Lord cannot have an address? So just like many times the conception is Lord does not have form. When all of us can have form, why Lord cannot have form? Of course, he can be all pervasive, right? But why do we want to restrict God not to have form, right? Not to have his own abode. So Bhagavad Gita says, no, God has his own form. God has his own abode. He has his own address. And what is that? So this is described. That's what we will see today in Bhagavad Gita 15th chapter, the Purushottam Yoga chapter that we recite in the Purushottam month daily. So here, this is very clearly described in 6th verse of this chapter. What is this verse? And we might have heard this verse a lot. Na tadbhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yadgatva na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. So Lord Krishna is describing, mama means mine. So dhama mama, that is where I live. That is my abode. What is that? The supreme abode of mine is not illuminated by sun or moon. Na tadbhasayate suryo. So here in material world where we are living, if at some day there is no sun, it will be complete darkness, right? So it's darkness is pervasive. Only when there is sun, then we find light there. That's not the case in the spiritual world, the Lord's own abode. There is no need for any sun or moon. No fire, no electricity. Nothing is needed to illuminate that planet. And then Krishna says, those who reach it never come back to this material world. So that's another very, very interesting point, that in this material world, what we see, so whoever is here stays here for some time, and then person has to leave. If somebody, for example, somebody has to say, what is the thing that is the most assured, right? So people say as sure as death, right? So whoever has come here has to die, has to leave this planet. But that is not the case with the spiritual planet of the Lord. One who comes there does not come back, does not return to this material world. Now let's read what Prabhupada has said about this verse in the introduction. So Prabhupada says that this verse is giving us a description about eternal sky, right? Which we have no conception, right? We have never seen it, we have never felt it. But this is what is the knowledge we are getting from Bhagavad Gita. It's a description of eternal sky. So how can there be a place which can be illuminated without sun, moon, fire, electricity? That's the place of Lord Krishna. So Prabhupada says, of course, we are here in this material world and we have a material conception of the sky, right? So if you have read Learn Gita, Live Gita, for example, Learn Gita, Live Gita, in chapter 3, it was also told how there is a material space, there is a conscious space, Jalakash, Chitakash. So there is a distinction between that. So when we say space is something that will give a unique identity of an object, right? So for example, if I take two objects, I'll say, okay, how do I distinguish them? Because in the space, their locations are different. So space is some concept that can give a different identity to different objects. Now there's a material sky, there's a spiritual sky. Material space is spiritual space. Now, what Prabhupada is mentioning here, in the material sky that we see sun, moon, stars, okay? But in the spiritual sky, there is no need for any of this. Why? Because in the spiritual sky, Brahma Jyoti illuminates everything. And what are Brahma Jyoti? That's the rays that are coming out of Supreme Lord. So Supreme Lord has its own abode, but he's also all pervasive through this Brahma Jyoti, right? Through the rays that are emanating from the Supreme Lord. So he's also all emanating. And this abode that Lord has is called Goloka Vrindavan. Now, it's not that, so we will say that, okay, in this verse, there is no mention of Goloka, right? So only described what is the quality of the abode of Lord Krishna, but there's no mention of the word that the address is actually Golok Vrindavan, right? So Prabhupada further tells, where is it mentioned? So Lord Brahma has written this Brahma Samhita, right? So where this is described in a verse 5.37, Brahma Samhita. So what is that verse? Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavita Bhes Tabhirya Eva Nijarupataya Kalabhi Goloka Eva Nivasatya Khilatma Bhuto Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So that verse says very clearly, what is that abode of Lord Krishna? Goloka Eva Nivasati Akhilatma Bhuto. So he always resides in his abode Goloka. He never leaves his abode Golok Vrindavan. So he's always eternally there. So now then the question comes, okay, that's very, very nice. So we hear about Lord's abode, that is so wonderful. It's all full of happiness. So we hear all the pastimes, how the devotees who are staying in Golok Vrindavan are eternally, happily residing with the Lord. Yes. But then how do we connect? How do we connect to the Lord? Like, can we go there? So because it says those who reach it never return to this material world. So how do we go there? That's the very natural question that comes, right? And how do we connect to the Lord? So this again, Krishna is, Srila Prabhupada is mentioning, he can be approached from this world. Yes. And to this end, the Lord comes to manifest his real form, Satchidananda Vigraha. So being in this material world, we had no idea about this abode, what is the quality, how do people stay there, right? But just to show the glimpse of his own abode, right? Because of his mercy, he comes, he descends, he manifests his real form. So later on in this introduction, we will see a verse that talks how his planet Golok Vrindavan is unmanifested to us. It's not manifest to us, but he comes and manifests it in front of us, right? Just 5,000 years ago, right? Not too long, just 5,000 years ago. So he came and manifested his real form, his real abode. And what is his form? Satchidananda. So his form is full of, so Sat is eternal, Chit, knowledge, and Ananda, that is bliss. His form is full of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. That's complete opposite of what we see in this world, right? So in this world, whatever object we see, whatever person we see, they come here, they stay for some time, they will have some byproduct, and they will dwindle, and then they will leave, they will die, right? That's not the case in this, with anything that is connected to Lord Krishna in the spiritual world. Now, if he does not manifest his own form, it's all left to our own imagination, our own conception that, oh, maybe Lord looks like this, maybe Lord looks like this. That's how many people do. They try to imagine, right? But because Lord has actually come, there's no need to imagine, no need for us to imagine what is his form. He has actually come here. So there is no need for our imagination at what he looks like. To discourage such imaginative speculation, he descends and exhibits himself as he is at Shyam Sundara, right? So as you might have known, like one of the very famous politicians had commented that, like in Hindu Dharma, people imagine certain forms of God, right? They have imagined certain forms of God, and whoever can imagine one form, they can worship that. What a silly statement! Like, because if that was the case, why there are only a few forms that everyone is worshipping from so long ago? Then everyone would have their own different imagination. They would keep on imagining different forms and would be worshipping. But that's not the case. So anywhere you go in India or anywhere in the world, if anybody is worshipping Lord Krishna, they are worshipping the same form, right? It's not an imagination. So this is because Lord actually came here to show how he looks like in his Shyam Sundara form. But what people do, unfortunately, the less intelligent people deride him because he comes as one of us and plays with us as a human being, right? So some people take it just like an opposite. So they say, okay, so he has come here, he's playing like a normal human being. So why he is God? He's a human being. So when people say, Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, oh, they were just normal human beings. They were human beings, right? So how can they be human beings? Right? So one cannot actually mimic what they have done, right? So, but they try to deride Lord by saying that just a human being. But because of this, we should not consider the Lord one of us. Just because he's coming, right? He's coming and showing us his form doesn't mean that he's just one of us. So many times this example is given that how sometimes the prime minister can actually visit the jail, right? But doesn't mean that he's also one of the prisoners. He has visited the jail, right? But doesn't mean that he's one of the prisoners. So this material world also we try to compare because we say that this is in place Durga and the jailer is Ma Durga, right? So we say this place is like a prison and Durga Ma is the jailer of this place. Lord Krishna comes here to only to show that, no, this is not the place for you to stay, right? We have to actually endeavor that we can come out of this place and come back to him, to his own eternal abode, where we can live happily. We will be free from all the miseries that we are facing in this world. Nobody in this world can say, oh, I don't have any problems. I'm completely free from problems, right? So Lord Krishna actually descends here to show that, yes, there's a place beyond this world that we can see, we can conceptualize. There's a place where he stays. That's his eternal space. And we can also go there. And you will see beautifully in this introduction how Prabhupada has mentioned what is the process by which we can actually go to that place, to the abode of Lord Krishna. So it is by his omnipotency that he presents himself in his real form before us and displays his pastimes, which are replicas, right? Just replicas of the pastimes from his own abode. He just brings those for us, right? And says, oh, you see, this is what we do there. So why do you need to hang around in this world? Why don't you come and live with us? Now, in the effulgent rage of the spiritual sky, there are innumerable planets floating. So now Prabhupada mentions about, right, there Golok Vrindavan is where Krishna is eternally staying, but there are many planets in the spiritual sky. So the Brahma Jyoti emanates from the supreme abode Krishna Loka, and the Anandamaya Chinmaya planets, which are not material, float in those rays. The Lord says, Natad bhasayate suryo na shashanko na pavakaha yadgatva na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. One who can approach the spiritual sky is not required to descend again to the material sky. Na nivartante. So once we go there, we don't come back. So in the material sky, even if we approach the highest planet, Brahmaloka, what to speak of the moon, we will find the same condition of life, namely birth, death, disease, and old age. So then Prabhupada is mentioning, so there's a spiritual sky and there's a material sky. In the material sky, one can go above Earth planet. Later on, we will see how we have lower planets, earthly planets, and higher planets. And if one actually does certain activities, certain good activities, pious activities, one can actually go above, right? Heavenly planets. One can go to even Brahmaloka. But then, even if one can go to Brahmaloka, that's the highest destination one can go in the material sky. One cannot get rid of the basic problems of life. And what are those? Birth, death, disease, and old age. Right? So they stay with any planet. Of course, in Brahma's planet, one would live for, say, maybe trillion of years, but still, it's not eternal. So one would have to again take birth, die, have disease, and old age. So no planet is free from these four principles. Now, the living entity is traveling from one planet to another. But it is not that we can go to any planet we like merely by mechanical arrangement. If we desire to go to other planets, there's a process for going there. This is also mentioned. Yanti deva vrata devan pitran yanti pitravata. So that means, how do we go to another planet? So we don't need any mechanical arrangement. There is no rocket required to travel to planets. That's what Bhagavad Gita says. You can go to any planet by worshipping the deity who is in charge of that planet. So, for example, the moon, sun, and higher planets are called Swargaloka. And they have different statuses, like higher, so that's what we said, higher, middle, and lower planetary system. Earth is the middle planetary system, and Bhagavad Gita informs us how we can travel to the higher planetary systems, Devaloka. The very simple formula. What is the formula? Yanti deva vrata devan. So if we only worship the particular demigod of that planet, we can, like moon planet, if you want to go, we have to worship the demigod of moon planet. If you want to go to sun planet, we have to worship the demigod of sun planet, and so on. And if we worship them, we go to their abode, their planet. Now, of course, like one can say that, yes, one can also go there by following all this, all the space satellites and rockets, right? But one has to put so much effort in getting attuned to that. Like in this, we have to go in that, we will go in this particular human body. That's not suited for the environment for any particular planetary system. So one has to go in the exact body that is suitable for that planetary system. And that happens if one really worships the demigod who is in charge of that planet. And then we leave this body and we go in a suitable body to that planet. So this is all there in Bhagavad Gita that one can do that. But then Prabhupada says, but no, don't fall into that trap. So don't fall into that trap. Although you can go to all these planets, the higher planets in the material sky, no, that's not what is the goal of this life. So Bhagavad Gita does not advise us to go to any of the planets in this material world. Why? We just saw, even if one goes to the Brahmaloka, and that Prabhupada has also mentioned that, okay, maybe you can have a space satellite to go there, and it may take 40,000 years maybe to reach. It's so far, you can maybe reach in 40,000 years. And then Prabhupada also says, and who would live that long? But let's assume somebody lives that long and can reach Brahmaloka, right? You will still find the same problems that you are facing in this world. So we will still be having birth, death, old age, and disease. So that is where one has to be very much convinced about that, no, this material world is not where I want to live perpetually. I want to go beyond. I want to go to Lord's abode, Lord's own abode, Krishna Loka, Golok Vrindavan. So, but one who wants to approach the supreme planet, Krishna Loka. So the desire is first important, that you must have the desire. That's, yes, I want to leave this planet and actually go to Krishna Loka. Yes. Or any other planet within the spiritual sky. So like there is Goloka, there is also abode of Lord Rama, there is Ayodhya, there is Dwarka, there all the spiritual planets are there in the spiritual sky, along with Goloka Vrindavan. So when one goes to the spiritual sky, there is no more inconvenience. And among all the planets that we have in the spiritual sky, all the Vaikuntha planets, the supreme planet is called Golok Vrindavan. That's the original planet where Krishna, the original personality of Godhead, eternally stays. So how do we get all this information? This comes from Bhagavad Gita. And now we are also given through its instruction, yes, all these planets are there, we want to go there, then, but what is the process? How do we go there? How do we leave the material world and begin a blissful life in the spiritual sky? How do we do that? So then Prabhupada mentions about another very famous verse from 15th chapter, the first verse of the 15th chapter. So where there's a real picture of material world is given. What is that? Urdhamulam adhashakam ashwatham prahuravyayam chandamsi yasya parnani yastam vedasa vedavit. So this material world is described as a tree whose roots are upward and whose branches are below, right? And Prabhupada asks, do we have an experience in this world of a tree whose roots are upward and branches are downward? And Prabhupada gives an answer, yes. We have seen such a tree when we go to a river bank. So when we go to a river bank and there's a tree at the bank, right? So we will see the reflection of the tree in the river. And the reflection will be completely opposite. So we will see the roots upward and branches downward. So, and that is what is the material world exactly. Yes, so Prabhupada said this is just a reflection of the spiritual world. You are what Krishna is showing us, just a shadow of reality. So the spiritual world is the real reality, and we are just seeing a shadow. Now, what is the problem with the shadow? In the shadow, we may look after things. So I want to, for example, in this world, everyone is looking after the three things again. Satchidananda, want to be eternal. Nobody wants to die. I want to stay here eternally, that I should not die. I want to be blissful. I want to be blissful all the time. right? I should be happy, full of knowledge. Yes. Yeah, I can't comment too much about full of knowledge because that's not many people really look for, but at least they want to stay here and they want to live happily, right? That's one of the common things, that everyone wants to live happily. Nobody wants to live a miserable life, right? Nobody would want to live a miserable life. It's just forced upon us. So we are looking for that, but this is just a reflection of the reality. So we just get a shadow. We just see temporary happiness, which is not even a drop of the actual happiness, right? So in the shadow, there is no reality or sustainability, substantiality. There is no substantiality in the shadow. But from the shadow, we can understand that there are substance and the reality. That's what is the purpose. So you can see that, okay, then what is there in the spiritual world? So from the shadow, we can see that. So there's a happiness in this world, maybe some small happiness. There's a real happiness in the spiritual world. So in the desert, there is no water, right? Like Prabhupada gives an example of the mirage. But the mirage suggests that there is such a thing as water. So in the material world, there is no water, there is no happiness. By water, it means happy. There is no happiness. But the real water of actual happiness actually is in the spiritual world. So now, what is the process through which we actually attain the spiritual world? And there are actually quite a few verses that have been mentioned describing the process. First of all, is again a verse from the same chapter. So 15 chapter 5 verse. So we are seeing a third verse from the same chapter in this introduction today. The Lord suggests that we attain the spiritual world in the following manner. What is that? Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinivritta kamaha dvandvair vimuktaha sukha dukkha sangyai gacchantya mudha padam avyayam tat. Padam avyayam. What is padam avyayam? Right? The eternal kingdom of the Lord. How do one reach that? So the first word that is in this verse that tells how does one reach that. So one can reach that padam avyayam, the supreme abode, by being nirmana moha. What is nirmana moha? So mana, what is mana? Right? So all of us have these designations, right? So for example, so when Mataji was talking about what all, where I have done my BTech and where I have done my PhD, what awards I have got, that's what typically I'm looking for. I'm looking for gaining, I'm a faculty member at one of the IITs, right? So that's what is the designation we feel proud about. I have done my BTech in one of the IITs. I have got this particular award. I have been known as a and so on and so forth. I am known as a researcher in this field. So we all look after these designations, right? That's what is mean by mana. We always look for these designations. Somebody, for example, Prabhupada says, somebody wants to become Sir, like at that time. Somebody wants to become Lord. Somebody wants to become a president, rich man. So we are all looking for these designations in this world. If one wants to give some charity, then also one wants to be known that that person has given this huge charity. So we all are looking after this mana, this designations. So I am the such and such person and I have done this, right? So this is all we are looking for. But the only way to reach a spiritual world is we become completely free from these designations. We completely aloof from these designations. Okay. So as long as we are attached to these designations, we are attached to this body because the designations belong to this body. Right. So that is what is very, very, very crucial point that this verse teaches us. What is the path to go back to God? First of all, be completely free from the designations. So recently I was just reading the story of Bharat Maharaj, so after whom the name Bharata has. So we have been given the name Bharata, our country has been given the name Bharata. So you might have heard the story of Bharat Maharaj, that how he was a powerful king. He was a very powerful king, beautiful wife, and so nice kingdom. Everyone was following his orders. Nice family. But at the age of 40 years, that was the time he left his kingdom and went to the forest to uh, practice for his goal of life, that I want to really go back to the Lord in this life itself. He was convinced. He went to the forest, and actually he was and lived like an ascetic there, had his practices, very, very strong practices. But what happened towards the end of his life? He just became attached to a deer. There's a nice story that comes, that how he saw a baby deer, nobody was there to take care of, and he took care of that baby deer. But in that process, he became too much attached to the baby deer. And at the time of death, he was again thinking of the baby deer. And it happened, we will see in one of the next verses, whatever we think at the time of death, we get similar body. So he got the body of a deer. But because he had done these practices very strongly, the Lord was favorable, and out of his mercy, Lord gave him remembrance of his past life. So he could remember what practices he did in the last life and why he came to this form of deer. So he thought, okay, so I'll be very careful. So even in the form of a deer, he did not do like what other deers do, like looking for like other animals do. Right? So he actually went to the place where two ascetics, Pulastya and Pulaha rishis, were staying in their ashram. He went to their ashram and he stayed there. That as a deer, he stayed there and he had their remnants, and that's how he lived his life. And next life, he again got a form of human, Jad Bharata. Again, he had remembrance. So then he said, no, now I have got again human form of body. I would not repeat the same mistake. So then he was not worried about what the other people talk about him. So Jad Bharata, he behaved as if he's a completely deaf person, he's a dumb person, and complete foolish person. So whatever others will say, he would not listen, he would not care, because he was completely absorbed from the very beginning in the lotus feet of the Lord, that this is my goal, with single pointed determination that yes, this is my goal. I want to go back to Lord's abode in this life. And we hear how he faced obstacles, like there were dacoits who came and kidnapped him, and they wanted to sacrifice him in front of Goddess Kali, but in turn Goddess Kali came out and saw how these dacoits are actually trying to kill a devotee, so she could not tolerate and killed all the dacoits. And then further, when he went, so King Rahugana was going, and how his associates, they were taking Rahugana on his palanquin. They needed one more person to carry the palanquin, and they found this a very nicely built person. They also took Jad Bharata with them. But when he was carrying the palanquin, now he saw how there were ants in front, and he jumped at certain points, and the king was not very happy, and he started scolding. And then only when Jad Bharata spoke, and king could understand that he's a very self-realized person. So in that particular birth, Jad Bharata, he was completely free from all designations. He did not care about this, what is happening in this material world. And that is what is important, Nirmana Moha. Jita Sangha Dosha. So that is the second thing that will come. Now, Prabhupada then further elaborates, why are we so attached to all these designations of that this world is giving us? And he further analyzes and says, so all these designations that we are having, they all belong to this body, right? So with this body, certain designations come. Even simple designation like father, teacher, they all come with this body. But then Prabhupada says, but that is the first concept that we learn in a spiritual life. In Bhagavad Gita also, the first teaching that Krishna has given to Arjuna is about that we are not bodies, we are not these bodies that we are so proud of, and we are proud of this aham mameti, that I and mine. So I and whatever is mine, I'm so proud of that. So if we can realize that we are not this body, that becomes the first stage of spiritual realization. So that is how Prabhupada connects this Nirmana Moha with the concept that if we understand we are not the body, we will also become aloof from this designations that come with the body. Now, second thing that it comes here in this word, Jita Sangha Dosha. So what are the Sangha Dosha? So these are the three modes of material nature. So we are all influenced by the three modes of material nature. So mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And sometimes we are more influenced by one of the three modes, or a mixture of some of the modes, right? But that's all controls whatever we are doing in this world. Now, what Prabhupada is saying, then what is the process by which we can become detached from these material modes? So Prabhupada says the process is devotional service of the Lord. So if we become attached to the devotional service of the Lord, we will become detached to the material modes. But on the other hand, if we find that we are not getting attached to the devotional service of the Lord, what does it mean? That means we are completely bound by the material modes of nature. Okay. So unless one becomes attached to the devotional service of the Lord, one cannot get detachment from the modes of material nature. So one cannot say, okay, let me first become detached from the material modes and then only I will do devotional service. No. Devotional service to the Lord is the only process by which one can become detached from the material modes. So we have to start whatever devotional service we can start. So there are so many processes. Even the simple process that we are doing right now, we are reading from the Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, right? That simple process is devotional part of devotional service. We are hearing about the Lord, we are chanting Lord's name. So these are the simple processes that are given to us by which we can engage in the devotional service of the Lord, and we can become detached. We can gradually become detached from the three modes of material nature. Now, the Prabhupada further analyzes that designations and attachments are why they are there, because of two things: our lust and desire. Right? It's all our lust and desire that makes us grab for all these attachments and designations. Right? Because we want to become like, we all want to compete with the Lord. Like we all want to say, why should there be Lord? Why am I not the Lord? Right? Why is Krishna the God? Why am I not the God? So we all want to lord over the material nature. And all these designations are just our propensities, right, to lord over the material nature. And as long as we have this, there is no possibility. Very clear words, Prabhupada says. So if one says, oh, I want to remain attached, but I also want to go back to God, no, this is not going to happen. So one has to actually become detached from this designations and attachments. And the process also Prabhupada tells very briefly here in this paragraph. By becoming attached to the devotional service, we can become free from this. Because unless we become free, there is no possibility of returning to the kingdom of the Supreme, the Sanatana Dhamma. Because unless we are pure, like if we still have the propensity to lord it over the material nature, that means we are not in our eternal position of our eternal constitutional position is being the servant of the Lord, that we are the servant of the Lord. Unless we come to that constitutional position, we cannot go back to the Supreme Abode, because there Krishna is God, everyone else is actually happy being the servant of the Lord. Okay, it's not by force. It's not by force. It's all the natural constitutional position of everyone, that if one becomes the servant of the Lord, one actually can relish happiness. So that eternal kingdom, which is never destroyed, can be approached by one who is not bewildered by the attractions of false material enjoyments. Right? That's what Jarabharata actually tried. He behaved like a completely dumb person, completely foolish person, so that he does not get attracted by all this material enjoyments. Yes. Who is situated in the service of the Supreme Lord. So one who is so situated can easily approach that Supreme Abode. Now there's another verse in a different chapter, chapter 8, 8.21, it is said, Avyaktoksara ityukta stamahu paramam gatim yam prapya na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. So again Krishna talks about his own abode. Tadhama paramam mama. Yat yam prapya na nivartante. Again Krishna says, after going there, but then does not come back. That is my supreme abode. But now what is the quality that he's describing? So he's describing something very important. Avyakta. Avyakta means unmanifested. Right? This material world that we are seeing around, right? Whatever we are seeing around, that's manifested before us. But the spiritual abode is not manifested before us. And then Prabhupada says, okay, now don't think that you can even see all the material world. No, we can only see something very, very limited by our senses, right? Whatever senses allow us. We only see some very limited things. Not even all of this material world is manifested before us. Now, it's Avyakta, but it is still Akshara. That's permanent. That's permanent. That place is permanent. Not like this particular material sky that comes into being and gets annihilated. Whoever comes here also goes through these Shadvikaras. What are those? That one comes here, stays here for some time, grows, gives some byproducts, dwindles and dies. So there are Shadvikaras that happen. But the spiritual sky is completely aloof, completely free from all this. Now Prabhupada says that our senses are so imperfect that we cannot even see all of the stars within this material universe. So in the Vedic literature, we can receive much information about all the planets. And we can either believe it or not believe it. That's okay. So all of the important planets are described in the Vedic literatures, especially Srimad Bhagavatam. And the spiritual world, which is beyond this material sky, is described as Avyakta, unmanifested. Okay. So it's completely unmanifested. We can't see that. But one should desire and hanker after that spiritual kingdom. For when one attains that kingdom, he does not have to return to this material world. So when we go there, we will not have to return. So that is why we should desire and hanker. And then Prabhupada says, right, that the natural question is, how does one go there? How does one go to the abode of the Supreme Lord? Yes. So one may raise the question of how one goes about approaching that abode of the Supreme Lord. So we already heard that verse, Nirmana Moha Jitsanga Dosha, that talks about the process that one has to be free from designations, attachments. Now, this is another verse that is giving a process. That information is given in the 8th chapter again. What is that? Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yaprayati samatbhavam yati nastyatra sanshayah. And whoever at the end of this life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. Okay, so what Lord Krishna is saying, that so in this chapter itself, Krishna says, whatever one remembers at the end of life, one will attain that position. So, for example, if one remembers demigods, one can go to the demigods planet, right? And there are bhutas, and so one can go to Pitraj, anywhere one wants by remembering them at the time of death. But if one can remember Krishna at the time of death, then one can go to Krishna. So one must remember the form of Krishna. So if he quits his body thinking of this form, he surely approaches the spiritual kingdom. Madbhavam refers to the supreme nature of the Supreme Being. The Supreme Being is Satchidananda Vigraha. That is, his form is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. Our present body is not Satchidananda. It is Asat, not Sat. It is not eternal. It is perishable. It is not Chit. Instead, it is full of ignorance presently. We have no knowledge of the spiritual kingdom, nor do we even have perfect knowledge of this material world, where there are so many things that are unknown to us. So Prabhupada is telling us that sometimes we are so puffed up, we think that we know everything and we can say, oh, there is not, I know everything. How can there be a spiritual world? So Prabhupada says, we don't even know everything of this material world, what to say about the spiritual kingdom. And there's a very limited thing that I know. Yes. So one should not become very, very proud in that sense. So the body is also Nirananda. Instead of being full of bliss, it is full of misery. So all of the miseries we experience in the material world arise from the body. But one who leaves this body thinking of Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, at once attains a Sachidananda body. So yeah, I think this is a very wonderful introduction. One can keep on reading. So should I pause here and ask if there are any questions?
Yes, Prabhu, please. Thank you so much for your explanation. Nice class. Thank you very much, Krishna. You can ask questions. Hare Krishna. Prabhu, I have a question.
Yes,
Uh,
Prabhu.
How to become free from the designations and false ego? How to become? It's very difficult, and these three modes, they will never leave us.
Yeah. So yeah, that's one of the most difficult part, and why one cannot go back to the spiritual world. It's not that like we feel that we are all situated very happily in our life, and what is the need? Sometimes we just feel that what is the need, and that's so we also hear this story of how when Indra was cursed to come here and as a pig. When the time came back for him to return back to his kingdom, he was not ready. He was happy with his family here. Indra was also happy with his family. So even though, and it's an outside we see, how can the person be happy, right? So in a family of pigs, how can that be happy? But Indra, in that particular situation, the Lord makes arrangement that one still becomes happy, right, in that particular body. So that arrangement has been made that, yes, we still feel some happiness wherever we are. And that's why it becomes very difficult for us to say, oh, why should I leave this position? I'm just very happy here. Why should I, who has seen the spiritual world? Who has seen, right? There's something beyond us. And that is where Bhagavad Gita teaches very step by step that, no, one has to analyze, right, that all this designation, all the attachment that we are seeing are from this body, that are coming out from this body. But we are not this body. So this body that we have, which there with us, will stay for some more time maybe, and we will have to leave this body. Right? What then? One becomes very attached to the family. Right? So we hear how in the story of Maharaj Chitraketu, he did not have a son, and Narada Muni gave him the boom, he got a son. He was so happy when after getting a son. But then also we hear how, because of different reasons, we hear after the son died, he became, it was like the end of world for him, that the son was meant everything for him. After he lost his son, he did not know what to do. That's when again Narad Muni came and said, okay, I'll bring your son back to the life. Right? So he brought his son back to the life, and what happened? The son was given memory of all his lives. And what did he say? When Chitraketu say, okay, I am your father. Oh, which father? I was in this life. I was in sometime in dog's life. I was sometime in this bird's life. I was in so many different lives, and I had so many parents. Which parent are you? So So it's like, if we look at the eternity, there's a very small period that we have as human being right now, and we will again leave this body, again go and take another form of body. So this purpose, if we understand that we are not this body, right, then that can be one thing, right, to understand, right? We should not become so attached to all the designations and everything surrounding my body. This is the understanding. And then what is the process? Then Prabhupada has told in one line that the only way one can become detached is by being attached to the devotional service. In the chapter 2, verse 59, also Krishna says that one can leave this lower taste only when one gets the higher taste. So one has to experience the higher taste. When one becomes attached to the devotional service of the Lord, one experiences higher taste, then only one can become detached from the lower taste that is surrounding, from everything that is surrounding our body. Right? So only by becoming attached to the devotional service, by chanting Lord's name and by hearing, remembering all the Navada Bhakti process in association with devotees, it is the only way to become free from this attachments. So that would be a short answer, but yeah, please, if anybody wants to add, comment. Yeah.
Thank you, Prabhu. It's a very complicated question, but yeah, I always have this, and this is a true one. Like I feel this is what I should endeavor for, doing more of devotional service, and that's how we can cut off this material attachment a bit.
Yeah, we can be attached to the devotees. I mean, we should not think that, we should never think that the spiritual life is all about, oh, I have to give up this, I have to give up this. No, we have to, it's a lot of plus. So we get entrance into Krishna's family, and all the devotees are Krishna's family. So for example, this program that you are having every week, you're connecting so many devotees, right? So it's not detachment, it's attachment to the devotees who are all coming with a purpose, with a single purpose, right? So while we hear about detachments and all, we should also understand that the final goal is that we should not have material attachment. We can always have a spiritual attachment. We can always attached in service of the Lord. We can always be a family of Krishna and try endeavor for serving Krishna together.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Any other questions? Can ask any questions. He's the right person to ask.
Yeah, not sure about that.
No, Prabhu. Yeah, actually, we have a lots of such questions, and nobody's here to answer. Among Prabhu, in the group, if you have any questions, you can.
No, I already asked, but everyone is fine. This is the first time for them, so hopefully by next time they should be ready for more questions.
You give some brief introduction about Bhagavad Gita, no, Prabhu? Hare Krishna. Hemant Prabhu.
Mataji, just one second. We have got one question from one Prabhu.
Okay.
Leave this materialistic, detach with this materialistic.
Nazdik aa jaye. Okay, repeat the question again.
Why it is very hard to leave this materialistic and detached with this materialistic world? That like I totally understand that once we have to taste the higher taste, then we can detach with the lower taste. But it is very hard. Like I'm bounded with my responsibilities and everything. So why it is very hard? What can we do for that?
Prabhu, did you hear it?
Yes, true. I heard it. Yes. Yeah, it's very hard. I mean, all of us are trying. I mean, we are trying, and we are reading Bhagavad Gita and trying to practice, right? Trying to practice, and so that we can become detached. Now, why it is hard? Why it is hard to leave all this attachment? So there are many regions that are given. Like one of the regions that is given is that we don't know how long we have been here. So we get, so for example, we just know that we have this body right now as a human form of life, and we have certain social circle, we have certain responsibilities, some designations, but we had a life before this. We had a life before this, maybe as a human, maybe as some other living entity. And there also we were having certain responsibilities, like even in an animal form, you will see how they also have their own responsibilities and everything. So we are always, we are in this life, in this material world for we don't know how long. So there are 8.4 million species we have been here. So this conditioning is very, very strong. And that is where when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave the Sikshashtakam, in the first verse he mentioned about this Sankirtan movement being the cleansing process of the mirror, that the mirror of our consciousness is completely covered. So we can't see ourselves. We only hear from Bhagavad Gita that we are not the bodies, we are the spirit soul, but we don't feel that. We still continue doing everything as if we are the bodies. Right? We don't start behaving like soul. We still work as bodies, right, all the time. So that is where the process that is given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Sankirtan movement. So the chanting process is the way that by which Lord is manifesting in this world. Right? So we talked about this spiritual world being completely unmanifested, but Lord's name is indifferent from the Lord. And so we are so fortunate that we have received in the parampara that we can actually chant this name and we can connect with the Lord. The Lord can manifest himself through his name. So if we are very, very sincere in practicing, right? If you are very, very sincere in practicing, we can actually get rid of the attachment. We can actually cleanse our consciousness. But again, the same question comes that we don't become sincere because we have all these designation, attachment. They always pull us, right? They always pull us. So it's always a tug of war. Whenever we have the devotional service, it's always a war against Maya, is what devotees say. It's a war against Maya always. And in a war, we have to be very, very cautious. I mean, we have to be very, very sure that the enemy is very strong. So many times we don't even feel that the enemy is very strong. We have to understand that the enemy is very strong, and only when, so why we say that the association is so important, why the Sangha is so important. So only when the devotees, they come together, they can try to fight, right? They can come together and try to fight the enemy, that is Maya. So we have to be very clear about the goal. So that Shraddha is very important. And we have to be very clear, this is not so easy. This process is not so easy. But if we continue doing this, if we continue following the process, what is given to us, yes, gradually, the attachment will go down. Yes, it will not happen like just in a moment of time or 7 days. It can happen. There are instances where it happened for people in a moment, like Khatwanga Maharaj, it happened just in a moment. He was told, just one more moment is there in your life. And he actually could become completely spiritual in that one moment. But that may not be possible for all of us. But then this process is given. We are given that we have to follow the related principles. We have to chant the 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day. We have to read Prabhupada books. We have to come in association with devotees, celebrate festivals, and also endeavor to also tell others this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. If we keep on doing this process with faith in association with devotees, yes, it is, Prabhupada has given guarantee that yes, after this life, we will come back. We will go back to the Lord. So it's on us that if we can become sincere, right, and take this process as the ultimate. I mean, this is the ultimate thing that I I cannot avoid this. This is the only way I can go back to home, back to Godhead. Right? So there's also another story that you might have heard of, that there was a disciple who went to a guru and asked, so Maharaj, I am so much in Maya. I mean, I have so much attachment. I'm not able to get rid of my attachment. So attachments are not going away. What should I do? So then the spiritual master, he ran outside and went to a tree and so he went to the tree and then completely was saying, oh tree, leave me. So he got hold of the tree and said, tree, why are you not leaving me? Why are you not leaving me? And the disciple asked, but master, you have to leave the tree. You have got hold of the tree. You have to leave the tree. So then the master said, but that's what is our condition. So we have actually caught hold of Maya, and we don't want to throw it away. We don't want a release. We just want to have Maya with us all the time. This is because we don't desire. If we sincerely desire, yes, that's possible. But that comes via practice, right? That strong desire also comes some point of time. So yeah, I mean, some anecdotes is what I could give. But yeah, overall, yes, that's a difficult question. But this process is what that can help one.
We'll discuss further because it's a really, really good question, and we everyone experienced that. Just balancing.
It's a tree. I have to leave the tree.
Right. Any other question, Mataji?
No.
Prabhu? Okay. So, thank you very much, Prabhu, from our side.
No, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak something about Bhagavad Gita. Also, yeah, by this I could also read this one more time. And it's very amazing introduction to Bhagavad Gita that one should read again and again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Dandavat Pranam. And we are really obliged to have you today because we have many questions, and yeah, you are sharing your realizations, and you are actually practicing Bhagavad Gita. If I speak, then it's I'm not even a good person to
No, Mataji, I think
yeah, so you are actually following. So that's why we are bringing the speakers every Sunday. So who are actually trying to, and they are endeavoring, supporting Lila Purushottam Prabhu to make this happen. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for being here today. Thank you so much for your time and everything. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna, everyone to join.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.